Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss pre-market video for Friday, September 27th, 2019. Happy Friday, everyone. I am Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. Here's a look at the daily time frame of the ES. We continue to hang out near these highs up here, and we remain within a very narrow range overall over the last 3 to 4 weeks. You can see kind of some rounded off behavior here. You see major support coming into play here at around 2960, 2970. You can see obviously price has not been able to find any kind of acceptance above the previous month's high. Every time it gets above it, it pulls back, above it, back, above it, back, above it, back. These times it rejected very close to it, failed high here, failed high yesterday, but higher low. And despite all of this here that suggests that we could be looking at maybe a failure, we're never too far away from an all-time high in the recent market. So again, this thing could easily push through 3K and start working its way to new highs. I think if very similar to what we've seen here recently, every time the market has rallied and formed a range at highs like it did here, it tends to pull back from those highs. It doesn't tend to see expansion. So we'll see if this thing can get expansion to the upside. 3,000 is going to be the key. I think if it tries and fails, that might be the last straw before that we see some sort of pullback that could be rather meaningful. Again, compression leads to expansion. We've seen a ton of compression lately. Expansion is likely getting closer. All right, let's take a look now at the NQ. You'll notice here with the NQ, very similar price action. Again, kind of a rounded behavior here. We do have an inside day developing today. 2-day highs very close to each other. That's around 78.50. Around 78.50 at those highs. Let me see the exact mark here. Yesterday's high is 42.75. The day before that, 44.25. So very, very close to that zone. So 78.50 would be a solid break. If it can get a break through 2-day highs like that, it could turn into a tremendous upside move, even if it's just a short-term basis. Again, this one has not really been able to find much strength to the upside lately. It could not test the previous month's high. It's rejected here off of the FOMC key level from July 31st a couple of times and pulling back. Now it's trying to stay below the May FOMC key level, staying below the September FOMC key level. So this market right now, very bearish overall, rounded top. Or at least in the near term here as it continues to pull back from those highs. But again, never too far away from an all-time high if it can get through these 78.50s. All right, let's take a look now at crude oil. Crude oil right now seeing a little bit of weakness at the moment, dropping over the last few minutes and over the last 15 and even the last couple of hours. This thing has been down. One thing that was pretty clear about this one is in the overnight chart here, crude oil rejected off the previous session's close price. That's 56.54, rejected off that area a few hours back and is now embarking on a stop run day down. You can see the midpoint here is still above the previous 2-day lows here. Expect that midpoint to drop lower toward the bottom of those 2-day lows, which means we have to continue downward for at least another 40 to 80 cents at least to the downside, somewhere in that zone. I need to do the exact math here, but for the most part we could be looking at much more downside price action, likely to 54.42 and perhaps down into the 54s. That's the 40 to 80 cents. And from there, again, you're filling the gap here. We're basically on that gap. We have already filled it for the day. That's something we've been talking about. A failure to fill the 58, or a failure to hold the 58.5 would suggest a fill. We finally got there. And now, do we see a continuation toward 50.5, or do we bounce off 54 here? So we'll see how this plays out. But right now, showing quite a bit of weakness with more potential downside price action ahead. If we take a look, lastly, here at gold futures, you'll notice that with gold, this one has pulled back the most it's seen here in a while since this early month pullback. We got below 1500 here today, 1497.20, bouncing a little bit here, but not anything significant. I think overall this market has been very, very bullish. It has continued to hold above LVNs. Support continues to be strong. We are seeing a bit of rounded top behavior here. We have yet to really truly retest 1490 from above. So again, we may need to see a major test of this level to either wash out those last stops to help this thing spring forward, or to run the stops and drop this thing back toward 1375 maybe. So 1490 is the key. Right now we're pulling back closer and closer, and anywhere in this lower end of the range, right, this 1490.7, anything into the LVN here could be a major zone of rejection. So any drop into that zone, if it's staunchly rejected, that could catapult price into the next area of prices above. All right, that is it for now. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Happy Friday. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the trading room. Take care.